Hello, I'm Raymond Bly. June 23rd, 2010, I took my wife to the hospital to have an ulcer removed and re-stitched up because the ulcer she had in 85, the stitches were fraying and causing her a lot of stomach pain. Instead, they did a biopsy of her lung to find what they call small cell lung cancer. I did a lot of research on it to find out that half the people die the first year and almost 100% die within 3 years of getting small cell lung cancer. The chemo doctor I moved her to from the University of Maryland down here to Columbia because I don't like driving in traffic or walking too far like the University of Maryland requires from the parking garage, etc., etc. Told me he was going to cure her. I didn't know he meant by doing excessive chemo, excessive radiation ordered. She went to hell in a handbasket real quick. But she started recovering from the chemo and radiation, and then she had vibrating heart. They were setting the EKG all off the scales, and she was in the hospital 5 days thinking she was having a heart attack. This was 2 years or 2.5 years into the treatments. They found there was a gallbladder during the jitterbug, not her heart. They removed that and her heart went back to normal. She's had trouble with high blood pressure, etc. About 1.5 years ago now, I took her in because she was numb on one side and slurring her speech. They told me she had a mini stroke, a few mini strokes in her brain. That she needed 24/7 care facility to take care of her. I said no. I promised her when she came from Vietnam that I always would have a place for her and always care for her, whether we were married or not. And I also promised her when she found out about the cancer that I would help her live as long as possible, as long as she wasn't a vegetable, hooked up to machines, so she could see her grandchildren grow up some. I brought her home, and within a couple of months she was going to the bathroom herself, helping cook dinner also, and her speech had come back because I was exercising her a lot. And John Hopkins OT, PT, and nurses were coming out a few times a week to also help me with this. Then, last November, she went crazy on me, totally wacko. She started screaming and yelling, "Who am I? Who am I?" Pointing at me. What did I do with her husband? I killed her husband. So I immediately bear hugged her and took her out and put her in the car against her will. She was fighting me the whole way, to the hospital emergency entrance. It's fun when you're walking into the hospital bear hugging a lady that's fighting and screaming that you killed her husband in front of a bunch of Howard County cops. And they're telling me to let go of her. I'm sitting there, no, she'll fall on her face. They found out she had had way too much brain radiation, which was dissolving her brains, and also for the year since she had the stroke was also causing her eyes. Call back in 5 minutes. Causing strokes in her eyes. They treated her, put her on blood pressure medicines again, and I brought her home against her advice. 2 times I had to have a friend with his video camera go to the hospital with my own wheelchair and basically load her in the wheelchair and start walking out of the hospital because they didn't want me to bring her home. But they were afraid of being videotaped, so they finally found the paperwork for me to sign to release her. They were only going to release her to a 24/7 hospice care unit, basically, which is a sentence of death. I brought her home. She started recovering. She started walking again, even cooking me dinner sometimes with my help. And then in June of this year, she got a UTI. She was semi-comatose, so I couldn't get her to the car. I had to call an ambulance. I got her in a wheelchair and rolled her out the front door because the gurney could not fit in the house. Excuse me. No, they carried her out on the towel I had her laying on that time. They took her in, treated her for 4 days, and said, we know we're not going to convince you to put her in a care facility. I'm sitting there, well, she's comatose. She can't even open her eyes. She can't pick up her legs or arms or anything or sit down. And if I put her in a chair, she falls over. They said, well, that's your problem. We treated her. That's all Medicare will pay for. The UTI is over with. So I bring her home, and this Vietnamese lady that just moved in the area, just down the street a block, I ran out. When I saw her, I said, you want a job to help me? Because I'm 100% disabled. I have rheumatoid arthritis, I have degenerative joint disease, I have 8 minor heart attacks now from angina. I have lung cancer, my lungs are worse than my wife's, etc. To come here and spoon feed and spoon water my wife for 3 to 4 hours in the morning and afternoon and evening. It was costing me over $1,000 a week. I also had my handyman that comes here and cleans the house once a week before, come here a couple of times in the evening to work an hour or two to help carry my wife to the bathtub so we could clean her private area because she was constantly number 2 all over the place. Then she gets, then one day, a month later, in the last week of July, we found her diaper had maybe as much as 3 ounces of pure red blood in it. So I call an ambulance, and instead of her carrying her out on a towel, I used a wheelchair to maneuver the 90-degree turns through this mouse maze or corn maze to get her out the front door so they could put her on the gurney instead of them just carrying her by the floor in a towel and bumping her everywhere. I took her back to the hospital. They said she couldn't swallow. She was almost dead. So they put a feeding tube in her. I brought her home August 8th. They told me absolutely nothing by mouth. Absolutely nothing. She wanted to drink, so I made her a cup of coffee in a baby cup. She only drank about this much the first few days, then that much morning and night. And at lunchtime, I would give her a glass of green tea. And now she almost finishes the cup 3 times a day, plus getting her tuber feeding. If you notice, today was the first time she actually said she needed to go to the bathroom and was able to walk that far because Kim has been massaging her legs, walking her, moving her legs back and forth and stuff to keep blood moving because her heart wasn't strong enough to pump that far the first week or 2. And I've been trying to make her walk 5 foot, 10 foot every time I get her up out of bed and every time before I put her back into bed into the chair. I've been feeding her at night. I won't let her die. Hospice quit me this last time I took her to the hospital saying, why didn't you call us? We would come out and give her painkillers and stuff so she wouldn't be in pain and pass on quietly as comatose. All she needed was a feeding tube in June and she would have stopped being comatose after the UTI. I'm so mad at doctors. If you saw one of my videos, how many doctors I fired. It's ridiculous. She just answered why I should get guardianship of her, and she wants me to care for her on the previous video. Thank you very much.